Wednesday, October 11th, 2017, special meeting of the West Milford Board of Education in conjunction with our town council. I think everybody knows where the exits are, and please silence any cell phones that you might have on, or turn them off, either or. And if we could have a moment of silence for the ongoing calamities, created by the recent hurricanes. Flag salute, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm glad to see nobody took a knee. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, a public notice of this meeting has been sent to board members, all district schools, the Herald News, the Trends, the Record, the Messenger, West Milford Town Hall, County Superintendent's Office, the Board Attorney, and Cablevision of Warwick, and has been posted in the Administration Building. Copies of the board meeting calendar resolution were provided to all local media, Town Hall, Township Library, and all district schools. The Township of West Milford published notice of this special meeting in the Herald News in its issue of October 8, 2017. Copies were provided to the Suburban Trends, the Record, Star Ledger, and posted continuously on the bulletin board in the main corridor of the Town Hall and on file of the Office of the Township Clerk. Mrs. Francisco, roll call, please.
Mr. Bailey, Mr. Seidowitz.
Here.
Mr. Drew, Mrs. Dwyer.
Here.
Mr. Robbins, Mrs. Fritz. Here. Mr. Huber, Mrs. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Foodie.
Present. Yeah,
We should do a roll call.
Yeah.
Mayor Vieri. Here. Councilwoman Eric.
Here.
Councilman Hensley.
Here.
Councilman Wackler.
Here.
Councilman McGinnis. Councilman Signorino.
Here.
Councilwoman Lichtenberg.
Here.
The purpose of this meeting is to conduct a joint meeting with the West Milford Township Council and Township Administrator to discuss the Hillcrest building. We want to do the petitions and requests afterwards?
I think you have to do it first.
You might want to listen to the members of the audience. You're not really
Okay.
doing anything that's going to be voted upon, so
Yeah.
they may
All right.
have some things that they want to bring to your attention
Okay.
for discussion.
Petitioners requested to speak prior to the meeting will be first with 5 minutes for each petitioner for a period of 30 minutes, and then time permitting, other petitions or requests limited to 5 minutes per petitioner will be allowed until the 30-minute period transpires. Petitioners speaking during petitions and requests are asked to address topics listed in the agenda. All speakers are asked to give their full name, spell their last name, provide their address. Speakers may not use the names of students during petitions and requests. I see that there's nobody on this list, but is anybody asked to speak? Barbara?
I'd like to speak if we have to.
Yep. Little League.
Hi, good evening. I'm Joe Casella, C-A-S-E-L-L-A, 83 Hewitt Road. I'm on the board for West Milford Little League, and on behalf of us, whatever decision is made with Hillcrest, we want you to please keep in mind the kids in this town. As it is now, we don't have enough fields to play on. The fields that we do have are in bad repair. It's a shame. I have a travel team, and we go to all the towns all over the county, Bergen County, Passaic County, and what we play on down there and what we have up here is a big difference. So whatever is decided upon with the Hillcrest building, don't forget, there's a pretty good baseball field back there. Please don't lose sight of that property, not only for us, but for our friends in football. We don't have, it's hard to say, can't believe I'm saying it, but in West Milford, we don't have enough fields, and then that makes no sense. And really, all the property and all the land around here, and we're fighting over baseball fields. So please, whatever is decided with that building, leave that baseball and football field alone, please. Our kids in this town need that baseball field. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Nicholson?
Hi, Bob Nicholson, 20 Hyde Road, Stockholm. I'd like to speak, but there's no real agenda to speak about, so you're here proposing what you're going to do with Hillcrest. I mean, I can think of a million ideas or disideas, so until you have a proposal, it's hard for me to comment. I mean, I can comment on innuendos and rumors if you like me to. I have no problem with that, but I'm not here to waste the people's time. You know, what are you going to do with Hillcrest? Then I think the public can actually respond intelligently. So, can I get another chance after you have a meeting to respond to what your proposals are?
We could take that up afterwards.
All right, because otherwise, you know,
Yeah, I know if you went on rumors and innuendos, you'd exhaust your 5 minutes like that, so.
well, it's very simple. Who's paying for this? Like, cut to the chase.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, I mean, that's, for me as a taxpayer, is there going to be a tax increase to the residents? Me? My taxes are frozen, so it doesn't affect me. It's kind of like the tax proposal for the 1% of the rich. The rest of the people are going to have to do that. I don't know. I mean, are you going to put a pool in an aquatic center? Are you going to raise the building? I mean, these are all questions that people need to know. And I would think, before any discussion, we should figure out what the MUA is going to do. Because if the bond proposal doesn't go through, that's a big problem, isn't it? So, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Garcia?
Good evening. Chris Garcia, 200 Lakeshore Drive. First of all, I'll echo the sentiments of Mr. Costello. We do often have lackluster facilities here for the sports teams, and that is disappointing. I've coached a lot of sports. My kids play a lot of sports and travel in other towns. We are not the envy of anybody with our facilities. Having said that, it does cost real money to do that, and I recognize that too. And I don't even think Joe mentioned it, but Little League's actually investing in that field behind Hillcrest right now with new turf. Football, I'm on the board with midget football, and we've invested a lot of money in that field, and we're going to continue to invest for our kids, but it would be nice to have good facilities. Having said that, Mr. Nicholson's comments, I agree. We need to not burden the taxpayers, and I think there is a potential plan to that could be pulled together to make that happen. A couple months ago, Mr. Nolan and myself, we did go to the Board of Education meeting, and we presented a concept of an aquatic center. And the idea there, the purpose, quite frankly, would be multifold. One, our swim teams don't even have a place to train as swim teams. Our seniors, we have seniors that are driving to Newton to YMCA or paying for memberships at various facilities down county or in Bergen County to go swimming. That's a shame. And it's a burden for people to have to travel. I know Mr. Nolan's daughters were on the swim team years ago, and they'd go to mountain lakes to train. We could have, and we do have a great opportunity here. And at that meeting a couple months ago with the Board of Ed, and Bob and I did suggest that something like this happen, and I'm glad to see this. And I think we all have a great opportunity for our community to do something great here. I do believe that we could do something that doesn't cost the taxpayers money if we bring together the right coalitions of organizations and or people to make that happen. And there's any number of things that could happen to this property, and quite frankly, some of them may have more merit than others, but in the whole scope of things, I have a firm belief that the quality of life here in West Milford should be paramount in the decisions we make. Improving that quality of life will improve our property values. Everybody's a taxpayer in this town. That's pretty important to everybody. Our homes are investments, and if we can improve that investment, that's a good thing, and that's what we want to see with our taxpayer funds. We also want to have outlets and avenues for our teens and our seniors I view them as most important because everybody in between is basically out working to pay those taxes, and they don't get to enjoy the fruits of these types of endeavors. But I think our teens and our seniors, it's very important that they have adequate facilities to enjoy recreational time and partake in activities that may not be available. And my other point is that we all know that drugs and alcohol are a problem here and everywhere. Having more to do and places to go will certainly help keep people from going in that direction. And I think that's probably one of the most important things, and that certainly does affect our quality of life. So, at the end of the day, I think there's an opportunity to do something here in a way that it cannot impact the taxpayers. And, for instance, a YMCA or a Boys and Girls Club, if we could, develop a plan with an organization like that, and this isn't a novel concept. I've had some private discussions with some people that, we've basically come up with this, this idea from feedback from a number of different people. But, for instance, a 99-year lease at $1 that the Board of Education offers to a YMCA, welcome a YMCA into West Milford. They would, in turn, invest the money in probably raising the building and building a new facility. And they do first-class facilities. They run first-class facilities. They staff first-class facilities. So all those costs would be borne by the YMCA or the Boys and Girls Club. They would hire local people to work there. And it would be a great community resource for people in our community to enjoy something that we don't have anywhere nearby here. I like to play racquetball. Where am I going to go play racquetball around here? There's no place to go. So that's just another example. And I think we could do something like that and still keep the fields in the back, keep a deed restriction there to maintain fields there. And I'd like to see something like this happen here in West Milford. And I think it's it's up to these respective governing bodies to work together and try to make that happen. And I'll do whatever I can to support that effort as well. Thank you.
Anybody else? You want to speak?
Robert Nolan, One Winding Way, and I would just ask both bodies to put aside any differences from the past. I know when I was on the council there was a lot of friction between the council I was on and the school board that was in office at that time, but things have changed since then. There's the issue that school owned Hillcrest, but the town was renting it, and there was always, are we doing enough maintenance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that New Life has moved out, the building's empty through no fault of our own or anybody. It's really nobody's fault, but it does present a unique opportunity. You have a one-time chance here to get something done, and just leaving the building as it is, it's going to deteriorate. I don't really think it has much use. It's an old building, and but here's a chance to do something good for the tax for the people in town. Like, one of the things we've heard is I think it's no secret. Chris and I have been out campaigning, and as we go through neighborhoods, it's like there's nothing for the kids to do. So here's an opportunity to give the kids something to do. I know it was in the paper the other day. It was a 14-year-old found on a lawn in my neighborhood, overdosing on alcohol, and I think something like this would be a big asset for the community, and it would, along with the new library, and basically make West Milford a place where people want to live. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
I'd like to close petitions and requests.
Second.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Will. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll move on then to what the purpose of this meeting is, which is to discuss between the two governing bodies what to do with the Hillcrest building. Terry?
I went through the survey, and it seems that it's almost 50-50 between people who want a sports complex and people who want a rateable there. And I think maybe it would be a good idea if we took those two questions and brought them back to the community and figured out, you know, what people really want. Because right now, according to the surveys, you know, some want this and some want that, and it's pretty equal. And I think the survey has to reach more people. I don't think there have been enough responses to really
Looking,
consider this a...
Well, I think the survey is one thing, but you don't have no cost analysis to
Right.
either direction you're going. So if you go in a sports complex, you know, what is the cost going to be to the taxpayer? So if you have somebody vote on something but not know what the
Well,
cost is
let's
going
go
to be.
just to see where the mindset is. I'm concerned about the condition of the building. When I went through the environmental report, I was very concerned about the asbestos, the rotten wood, the poor electrical system. It seems the only thing that's valuable in that building is the boiler. You know,
And the
if you read
doorknobs.
this report.
And the doorknobs, yeah.
And the door, well, they're, Jeez,
No, but
so
Terry,
I don't know, we have a lot of work to do. And years ago, I guess about 10, 15 years ago, I believe the YMCA did come up here and did do a analysis of the needs, and they turned us down. They did not want to come up.
did they give
So,
a reason at the
I
time?
don't remember.
Does somebody have that on record?
My kids were so little, you know, yeah, it was a long time ago. Yeah, times have
things
changed.
have changed, because your kids are grown up and you're still young, don't worry.
They're old. My kids are old.
Well, it certainly impacts me. You know, my oldest is using the field, and certainly I have 3 others coming up behind them. So I'm certainly interested in figuring out what we're going to do with this property. I do like the survey, and I think, although Mr. Wagner made a great point, if it was to be unanimous to one side, why do all the work with the analysis on the other if there was no interest? So certainly, if we could maybe, I don't know if today would be appropriate because we're not taking action, or maybe at the next council meeting, direct the administrator to maybe post a survey, maybe the same survey or whatnot, so we could have some comparable statistics that we could use.
I would like that.
And try to kind of get that around.
Bettina?
Well, this is something that I had brought up like about 5 or 6 years ago when the whole concept of pulling out of Hillcrest and saving the money that the township was putting into it while barely maintaining it, and knowing that there are asbestos issues and everything else. And I had said all along that we would have to restrict the fields because we obviously do need them. And in addition to doing that, I mean, I think the public so far is saying exactly what I have said all along, which is it could possibly be rateable, or it should be some form of recreational facility, whether it's an indoor sports complex or an indoor pool or anything like that. But part of it, you know, one would bring additional revenues. The other option wouldn't make it rateable, but it would still bring additional recreational facilities while still saving the costs of the building. So it would still have an impact on the residents either way. Both of them would be positive, but it might also make sense to just find out if there's even any interest. I mean, like you said, YMCA said no years ago, that was years ago.
Right.
Would somebody like a Y be interested? Is there even some sort of corporation or for-profit entity that might even be willing to locate here?
Right.
You know, because it would be hard for the taxpayers to vote on something, and you might get a large discrepancy in terms of the answer, depending on either is there a cost or is there a revenue? Like what would be the benefit in addition to the obvious recreational facilities if you do the one? And I think it's hard for the residents to determine that, because I think either one of those avenues would be acceptable, but in the end, we might only have 1 or 2 options. And it would be interesting to find out what you could do. You know, I would say you might have to give the building away as long as you can restrict the fields and avoid the future costs, because somebody whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit, will have to tear that building down, as you mentioned. It's not going to be salvaged. And in order for somebody to find it feasible to invest that kind of money, it's not likely that they're going to be willing to pay for a building that they then have to tear down. So the benefit would be save the costs, possibly put it on the tax roll, save the fields, and bring in either recreational activities or rateables, one or the other.
Debbie, you had your hand up a second ago.
Yeah, I'll pass to a later time, I think.
like what we're.
And ultimately, I think I was agreeable to the meeting, and I appreciate, I think we've come a long way. I know the comment was made about previous council members and Board of Ed members not really getting along, and I think it was probably worse than the way it was depicted, but certainly I've always worked towards having some communication with the Board of Ed, and I want to thank everybody for even being here. But at the end of the day, the Board of Ed owns the property, so before we go ahead and try to make plans, or, I want to hear firsthand from the Board of Education, what are you willing to do with it, what your ideas. I know, Jim, we're on the subcommittee together, and I know we've thrown ideas around, and some of them are being mentioned here, even from the public, but ultimately, I like to see what the interest of the Board of Ed is with the property, so that we know, I know where we stand as a council, if there's even a possibility of using it, so.
Okay, Mike, you had your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Pudi. I'd just like to remind the Board of Ed, as I'm sure you well know, that you all are not under the same restrictions as the Highlands Act as even the township is. So, one thing to keep at the forefront is no matter whether it's a sports complex or a future rateable, going into proceeding in that direction, be sure that before you turn over ownership, you get whatever, facilities, or whether it's septic kind of stuff or water, whatever needs to be done that maybe the Highlands Act won't allow for a rateable or won't allow a sports complex to do without your exemption.
Our septic is on the other side of Macapin Road, and an MUA easement backs up to that lot. So technically, I guess if they had capacity at that plant, we could probably hook into it. I don't know what the capacity of that plant is, that's something, but those, that option is there.
Right.
Bettina?
Well, I'm thinking also, what I neglected to say, and that kind of jarred my memory, is that I don't believe either of the options, whether it's the for-profit rateable or the recreational facility, would have to come at a cost to the township or the taxpayers. While I agree that the Board of Ed is obviously exempt from the Highlands, if we want to de-restrict those fields, parking is already not abundant. You've got a 22,000 square foot footprint. You don't need the exemptions of the Board of Ed, because you're not going to make that building any bigger than it is. Because if you do, you either lose the fields or use parking, and you can't lose either one of them. So again, I don't feel like, I know some of the comments floating around, and again, I realize they're just floating around, was, the Board of Ed should do this, or we should put the money in, and let's just put in an $8 million budget. This is not my, this is the rumors going out. My opinion is short of figuring out what might be feasible, it's not going to come to us. We do not need the point is to save the money, let some other entity come in and spend that money. But you're not going to get a bigger footprint, so I don't see that this is really going to interfere.
And Bettina, you leading into what I was going to say next was, we have one field there now. If we were to make a sports complex, the parking that you would need for the existing field and another field only gives us a possibility of one more field. And we're limited to that because the field in the back is probably 10 to 12 feet lower in elevation than the front of that building. So when you say sports complex, it's maybe one more field. Now, if we were to go for a rateable, we would have to, and Joe, our attorney can confirm this, if we would have to put it out to bid if we're looking to put it on a tax rolls as rateable. But a not-for-profit, such as the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA, since they're a not-for-profit, we don't need to go out to bid and do that. So that, to me, is the best of both worlds, if we can convince. And I got to believe that a study from 25 years ago is a lot different than what they would find today.
Maybe obsolete, yeah.
I would think so.
When I mentioned recreational facility, just in my mind, and obviously I'm only one opinion, but I wasn't actually thinking additional fields. I was thinking protect the fields that are there.
Oh, absolutely.
But it could be an indoor facility, whether it's a pool or indoor sports complex or both, depending on, because you could do a second story. You just can't increase the 22,000 square foot footprint.
Right.
But you could go up as long as you have the septic capacity and everything else.
Yep.
And again, sufficient parking is going to be an issue.
Yep, Glenn?
My feelings coming into the meeting were almost perfectly described by Mr. Garcia. it would have the benefit of dealing with the building without the cost to the taxpayers in whatever budget. And on top of that, I'm sure that the CASA committee would love some kind of facility that provided a place for youth to go and be active and do things and have a good influence, and to help drug prevention and such. So I think that there's nothing bad about those things. Naturally, if you can't find one of those facilities to come in, if we could find a hospital maybe to open an urgent care or something like that, that would sort of also benefit the community. I mean, that was Mr. Foodie's idea a while ago. And but that's my line of thinking on this, is try and prevent a taxpayer burden while getting a benefit for the community. And it seems to me that the idea of a Y is probably the most likely possibility there.
I mean, taking into consideration the size of the community, the fact that we're spread out over such a large area, it's pretty centrally located. Sports complex, we just don't have the land to do something large. I can think of only one spot, and I don't even know if we could do it there.
Jungle habitat.
No. It's something that's centrally located, but we need to do something with that building. We can't just let it sit there and slowly decay. I think a YMCA is a logical choice. I had sent an email out to the headquarters out in Chicago. They said we should contact, if there is an interest, that we should contact one of the local YMCAs, and they'll determine whether or not there's a need. I think, given the current conditions, I think we could easily convince them that there's a need. Now, we would have people from West Milford, the seniors would be able to use that facility. Then you're going to get people from Ringwood and Wanacue and Butler and Kinnelon, I think, even coming up here, Vernon, Oak Ridge, Jefferson. I think that it's a good spot that, for all of us, I think it would really greatly benefit the town. I'll get you next, Mike. Go ahead, Debbie.
I also think that if we do something along those lines, I'm thinking of the special needs population, and if we have a facility of that, that we could bring the kids in. If there's a swimming pool, we could do a Special Olympics swimming team. There could be other activities that the kids can get involved in to commingle with their, gen ed peers. So I think, we can take hopefully the best of both worlds and bring it into one place.
It would also benefit our elderly community.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, Mike?
No, just everything you guys are saying is great, and I really appreciate the line of thinking and the care that you're putting into it. Just that, what I would hope to see, or just as an option, certainly the YMCA or something like that would be perfect. Would it be an option, or would it be possible for when you get to that stage to also reach out to, say, a Chilton or one of these larger hospitals and see if there was interest at all in urgent care or some sort of medical wing or facility even? I mean,
we probably could, but then we wouldn't be able to offer it them. Then it would have to go out to bid.
Okay.
Ada, I'll let me get to you after Mr. Seidowitz. He had his hand up before. Go ahead, Will.
So, in terms of the pool aquatic center or the sports complex, it sounds to me, and it worries me, that this is still remaining in the Board of Education's hands somehow, that we'd be leasing to a YMCA or a nonprofit this building, and still down the road we'll hit a quagmire with the Hillcrest building. So I just feel like
they'll have to raise it. They'll have to raise it.
Ada?
they don't have to raise it.
As far as the hospital coming in, you'll never get that, not having the sports field in the back. Because I live a quarter mile away, and I could tell when West Milford's winning. And I like it.
She's not laughing, by the way.
No, I like it.
Oh, okay.
I think because we all seem to be on the same page, obviously. Not only were the residents saying it, but we've all had similar thoughts over all the years, and now we're presented with this opportunity. But and I would have to defer to your attorney as to, can you just, is it seek interest, or could you request proposals? But to me, it would be not only like the YMCA, but like the SPA 23, because maybe the nonprofit won't take it, but maybe the for-profit that offers the same kind of services would be willing to do it. And again, you'd have to make it clear, we'd need to deed restrict the fields, and you would have to take care of building whatever facility it is that you want, getting the permits and everything else. With regard to what Will said, you know, I hadn't personally thought of the long-term lease, because I do think of like, we just want to be done with that building, which is why I said even if you had to sell it for either almost nothing or even donate it with the deed restriction of the fields, then again, it's off the taxpayers' backs, and it brings in either rateables or recreational facilities or both, while still saving those fields. And it takes all those worries of eventually, even if they build a brand new building, 30 years from now, it's going to be an old building too, you know, and it just takes it off of your hands.
If you know, long-term lease, and really the standard is a 99-year lease, when you talk long-term leasing. To me, that would make the most sense, because if you give them a great deal on the lease to begin with, knowing that they're going to have to do the cleanup, the renovations, and you got to make it worth their while to come into our community.
Right.
And what's that?
That's why you give it to them.
Yeah, that's why you let them have it for next to nothing.
Right.
And the fact that it's a not-for-profit, you know, makes it easy for us to be able to do that. So, I mean, that's, you know, and I had a conversation with Chris about this. That's kind of makes like the most sense. And I've spoken with Lou too, and Pete. It just kind of makes the most sense. It utilizes, you know, that building, which the community already paid for the community. So for me, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. And if we can kind of keep that structural integrity of the building, it lends a lot more than just having a YMCA, that it then becomes like a town landmark as well. Go ahead.
I don't want to be repetitive. I think we are actually all very much on the same page, but I think another benefit of bringing in something like a YMCA, you know, we keep saying so much about the kids, but I'd like that this it's magnified by offering the seniors something. I have a 90-year-old grandmother that lives with us, and she doesn't have a whole lot to do. Something like that would offer her a lot of opportunity. I think one of the other interesting pieces of it is we have so many empty buildings around town that we're struggling to get rateables that want to come in, like the Acme and other buildings. And so I feel like we're struggling in that area. I know that property is a whole different story, but I think it also, if we are able to do something like that, it's keeping families in town, it's keeping the kids in the town, and it could have residual overflow to other businesses and restaurants and things in town. So we basically drive, you know, I have young kids, we're on the fields, you know, but we're traveling all over the place for almost everything else. And so I think this is another thing to keep people in town.
It may also help property values a little bit.
Right. That was the whole, I think, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. When we say recreational facilities, especially if it's a pool-type facility, that absolutely benefits every age group. And that's why I mentioned SPA 23, because I know a lot of seniors go down to a 23. And it's used for physical therapy, it's used for exercise, it's easy on your bones, it's non-resistant training, and of course for the youth, yes, they would have teams and things like that. But it's for every age group.
And again, if we can't just offer it to a SPA 23, they'd have to bid on it. And if other people bid them out, then we're, I mean, as long as it's for a purpose. And I don't know if we could, Joe, could we restrict the use of that building to somebody as a for-profit?
No,
you can't, right?
You can't restrict it. The process would be, if it was a nonprofit hospital or YMCA, we can give them the property. We don't have the issue with what Will was saying as, you know, having maintenance upkeep. If we wanted to give it to a SPA 23 or any business really, we would have to first declare it unusable for school purposes, and then we have to put together an application package to the Commissioner of Education, which includes an appraisal and some architectural issues and a legal opinion. So there's some costs involved there. It's not that much. And then we would get the approval to sell the building, and then we'd have to put out a bid package so that the highest bidder who comes in would get the building, assuming it's at a minimum amount, but it's not very much. So SPA 23 could win the bid, and they can get that if we were to do that, but so could a 7-Eleven, putting aside any planning issues. But if they wanted that land for some reason, anybody who would bid on it would get it.
Could you just clarify, when you made a statement about the deed restriction, could you clarify on either situation what the possibilities would be?
Oh, we could put a deed restriction on it for keeping those fields.
Oh, I thought I heard you say that.
We can't put a use restriction on it for the building that, or the company or whoever that comes in, unless we give it to a nonprofit entity who we know what they're going to do with it.
Once it goes out to bid,
It's pretty much an open season. I could put a bid on it and buy it myself if I wanted to. Anybody could. So.
Can you put it out to bid with a specific restriction on it? So everybody's bidding on the same restriction?
Yes, if you advertised it correctly, but you can't put a use restriction on it for what the profit-making industry would be. You would have to accept the bid.
But we could.
But you could put a deed restriction and some
with
other.
regard to the fields. But we can't,
yes, absolutely.
We can't determine what would win the bid.
Correct.
Okay.
Just one other question. Could you actually, I think you mentioned you could offer it to a hospital. If that's
A nonprofit hospital. Right. So I don't know what Chilton is or anybody else, but so that's for profit. But there are some nonprofit hospitals. You can offer to them. You can offer to the Y. You can offer to the Boy Scouts, whoever.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know, but the way the building is currently formatted, maybe there's a little section, where you can invite a nonprofit on one little corner, with your YMCA, constituents, input or well, it's just like a little section of it, maybe, if you wanted to have medical services right there at the Y, that would maybe come in handy.
Yeah, schools have done that. They've
like
leased out portions of their buildings to urgent care and things like that. It's doable. So that's another option if we wanted to do it.
I have a question.
Will had his hand up a while. Give me 1 second.
Oh, thank you.
You had your ladies first? Okay. What a gentleman.
There's property next door right next to Hillcrest. Is that privately owned or is that ours? Across the street from Ronnie.
That's private.
That is private?
Yeah, that's privately owned.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of that company, but it's privately owned.
On the other side of Ronnie? What do you mean?
Yeah, basically across the street from Hillcrest.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The good part is, I have to tell you all, if you vote yes on selling the MUA, your capacity down there with Suez will get up.
Okay,
It'll open up possibilities.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, maybe for the attorney, what would be the next step? Because I think we're all on the same page, I think everybody's liking the idea. The only way to guarantee it could stay a sports complex, basically, whether it's aquatic or other indoor, would be not to go to bid and for-profit, you'd have to do nonprofit. So would the first step just be seeking
The
out
first step
whether there's any interest?
is to reach out like Jim has already done to some places. Maybe we can come up with a list of other ones that we can also reach out to and see who's interested. And then the next step would be for the board to decide what they want to do with the property. And if they wanted to just had some interest and we would have to do an agreement and get the property, approved by the commissioner, but that's much easier than going out for a bid from a for-profit entity. It would be much quicker.
No, go ahead.
Can you put out like just like an RFI?
Yeah, you could do
First, and
that.
then
Just see who's interested.
See what input you can get from the RFI, and then make a decision from there.
Yeah.
So I guess my question would be, and it's relevant to that question too also, would be, I don't want to assume, but the Board of Ed would be administering this request for interest?
Yeah.
And also, I don't want to assume that there will be communication. I definitely want to encourage communication between our administrator and Mrs. Francisco. Certainly, we've had discussions in the past about possibly getting Chilton or these other facilities in here, so she may already have records or certainly recollections of conversations and things that may help.
Yeah, anything would help. I mean, it's no different than going to the community with the survey and asking what people want as well. So,
Will?
My biggest concern with the board getting the building back was the fact that in a couple months' time, we're going to be paying the utility bills. And I was curious if Ms. Battaglia or anybody in the administration would be able to put together an idea for the board of how much just keeping the building at a minimum would cost. Because in my opinion, anything over $1 all of a sudden starts siphoning from our students, and I don't like the idea of having this building. The quicker that we get it out of our hands, the better.
Yeah, I just want to say, we will start to incur utility costs. This is not a quick process. This is going to take a few months at least to get the approval. So it's already October. By the time this happens, it's going to be past the winter. So we're going to have those costs in the winter to keep the building
That's
as is.
understood.
Right.
Also, I honestly don't share everybody's opinion about the nonprofit route. I don't like the idea. Anything, I feel, in my history as a West Milford resident, that anything that has been leased or sold for $1 has always backfired in the township's face. And honestly, when somebody says, let's give it away for $1, I cringe. So, I wanted to share that opinion, and yeah, I have to reiterate, I think that trying to prepare this to sell this for a for-profit organization is our best bet for this township.
You know, that's a good point that you make, because in my experience on the council, the dollar lease, there's like no ownership there, you know? There's no buying, there's no money out of their pocket as far as the purchase of the property or whatever. So it tends to be a negative towards the whole relationship, at least it has in the past, it seems like.
Yeah, but they're gonna have to improve the building.
Yeah, they will, yeah.
You know, if they get something at no cost,
Yeah.
like a YMCA.
Right,
I
yeah,
mean,
you want to try to incentivize it. No, I get it.
You want to make that an incentive.
Yeah.
And if we go the for-profit route, you know, we can look forward. You're worried about $1 taken away. Think of the hundreds of thousands of dollars we'll have to do in abatement costs in order to get rid of that building. You're talking almost $1 million. I mean, you're $750,000 in abatement costs alone.
But that's something that we can get back with the sale. When
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
No, because whoever buys it is going to have to deal with that.
So sell it for $1 and then it falls apart is how I look at it.
Well, I get back to, this is why we need to find out who would be interested, because in my opinion, realistically, we all know, as somebody pointed out, we have a lot of empty buildings in town. Realistically, demographically, it's going to be tough to entice anybody to come in. If they have to pay a couple million to buy a building and then $7 million to build something new, it's going to get too costly given what they can get from this community. That's why, in my opinion, I wasn't talking lease, I was talking about giving it, because we need to give them an incentive to come here.
Right.
And, you know, and build something that this community can want and need and support. And if they have to buy it first, only to knock it down and dump $5 to $8 to $10 million into it to make it the complex that we want it to be, we don't have the demographics to support that kind of cost factor. I don't think we're going to be successful in that regard. That's not to say we start by saying, oh, we'll give it to you. Start by asking if there's interest in coming into town, and what would it take to get them here. When it comes to the utilities, they were running the township for over $100,000 a year. That was when it was occupied. You could obviously lower that, because you wouldn't have it occupied. You could set it minimums. My opinion, if it's otherwise vacant, and we know we're not going to use it, and we're going to tear it down, drain the pipes, shut everything down, and don't pay a dime for it. Why would you?
Okay, two things. One, first a comment, and then I have a question for Joe. First, one of the comments is, I've been raising my hand to make kind of the point Mr. Foodie made about the abatement costs of the property. I read the feasibility study. Because the material is in there, it's going to be a very high cost on getting rid of that building. So, in my view, the best course of action is to get somebody else to do that for us. Okay? That having been said, there's been talk about, oh, well, we should just raise the building and put in a field. Well, I don't think those folks really understand how much that would actually cost for a field. Okay? We have other fields that we could make, usable for a lot less expense. A lot of other areas in town. So, that having been said, I'd like to ask Joe a question, is if we were to put it up for bid, could we put a requirement on it that the building would be raised within a certain period of time? So that we wouldn't auction it. My concern is that you auction it off, and then somebody says, wow, this is kind of more than we thought, and then you just leave the building to rot. And that would be even worse than what we have now, is a building that's actually somewhat usable.
My thinking is no, because once you're selling the building, you're selling the building. But I'll let you know. I'll look into it. But I'm going to tell you.
Well, I mean, that could be.
Well, there are local ordinances and planning board issues as well, obviously. And once it's out of our control, the person who buys it is subject to those.
Well, real estate contracts do have conditions that survive closing of title on.
And they do, absolutely.
Like a recapture clause, if the
Yeah.
facility's not
If
being
it's not,
used.
if it's not done by a certain period of time, it's not raised at least by a certain period of time, it reverts or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
We-
I'll look into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, did I hear correctly? So you're not interested in putting another field there? Is that what you
No,
said? You're
no,
not
we're
interested?
we're talking about plans B and C right now, aren't we?
Okay. No, I'm just curious because I'd like to know, where everybody's at because.
No, I'm on the same page as Mr. Garcia.
Okay.
But I do think that, there's always a possibility once we check it out that we may not have interest that works. And then we have to think about what do we do with it. And I don't think the raise it and put in a field idea is really cost effective for the town. And so.
Cheaper to buy a piece of land and do that.
So then that goes then to the option of selling it off. And then, what are our options when we sell it off? That's my thinking, is I'm going kind of like step by step.
Anybody get an estimate on how much it would be to knock that building down and remediate it? Or we
Just
just
the remediation, just the abatement
we
costs
have actual
alone.
estimates?
We've got,
No, we have an anticipated cost, which is about $640,000 plus professional fees, but.
Includes dumping and everything?
that's
Recycling and dumping and everything?
that's the abatement cost, that's cleaning the building.
That's not getting rid of all the brick and everything?
That's without the demo.
That's without the demolition.
And of course, you always know that when they start these projects, they go, oh, we didn't know that was in there. And then the costs go up.
And that was a study that you guys had done by a professional?
Yeah, but January of this year, the cost analysis, yeah.
That's without the demolition,
That's without the-
$640,000.
Yep, that's
So
their
West
estimate.
Milford, New Jersey.
Yep, that's their estimate.
To the abatement. But I think that that was with the intent of doing a renovation.
Oh, okay.
Certainly, if you're gonna do an abatement with the intent of demolition, it's a different.
Right, much less.
But it's still gonna be considerable.
But you still have the demolition.
And we had
And you're
estimates.
talking $500,000 probably anyway.
I was just curious of the number, that's all.
Terry, you wanted to speak before, no? You're good?
So would the board then take action to see?
I would.
And the heating thing, I'm sorry, but the heating thing, you're gonna be locked up this year and sealed. You can probably leave it at 60 degrees, you don't have to have it at 80
We're gonna be
degrees or
using
70
it for
degrees.
the November 7th election, and then after election day, we don't see any need unless, the only question that I had would be whether or not it might be needed for an emergency shelter, or whether the township now has additional space with the library to accommodate any type of emergency that might happen.
That would have to be
PAL
addressed.
building.
That would have to be addressed.
It's still on the plan right now, so.
Well, I believe that you still have your generator there also, in case we do have some unforeseen event over the next 2 months.
Right.
That building would have to be accessible.
Mhm.
We'd have to have snow removal. As long as we consider it to be an emergency shelter, we'd have to make sure that there's snow removal and all the mechanical.
Right, that it's
systems are
accessible,
working.
yeah. Well, no, I'm not sure if it may have been already done, but the record reflect that Mr. McGinnis is here, Mr. Drew's here. They're not really up to speed, but, some ideas were thrown around. Pete, you're familiar, being on the committee. We've talked about a lot of these issues that the public brought up, and some of the members, the elected officials here brought up. But basically, I think we all gave consensus that we're going to go out for requests for interest, just RFIs, to find out who's even interested in coming over and taking over the building, whether it be for profit or nonprofit. And then also, Mrs. Dwyer brought up a survey that she had been taking, and it's pretty much split 50-50 to put it on the tax rolls, and also to have nonprofit come in and take care of it. So, what people want to see there, right?
That's
And
all those comments are in there?
so I had asked that we provide the survey, maybe on our website, or get that survey around. But in the meantime, the Board of Ed's looking to find out who's interested in the building.
I think maybe you might want to add a little bit more detail to those surveys.
Yes.
And say,
I haven't seen the survey.
And say, right now the survey is like, what do you want to use it for? Okay.
You should have had a copy of it, Lou.
And it doesn't take into account any of the costs. It doesn't give any of the costs. It's in a perfect world kind of survey. okay? Where if we had all the money we wanted to do, what would you want to do with it? That's the survey right now. It doesn't take into account the costs and the impact on the taxpayer and things like that. I think you need to adjust the survey a little bit to get something that's more realistic.
But that's why I think you need to get the request for information first to see
Yep.
who and what entity
What are our
are
options?
interested,
Need-
because that would
yeah.
then define what costs, if any, and what purpose it could be serving the community. And then they can have an opinion because they have information. Right now, it's just, what do you want to see done with it?
Yeah.
Right, we have to see what our options are.
You know,
Yeah, we have to find out what our options
I
are.
have a question about something that
There
was
goes
in
the field then.
I have a question about something that was in the survey. Somebody made a comment that in 1993, Hillcrest was declared a historical landmark.
No, they
Is
were
that
talking,
true?
they were
No?
talking about
Like
the.
Passaic County or West?
No, the
They were
museum.
talking about the
Maybe
museum. They were talking
Yeah.
about the museum.
The old
No,
annex.
they also talked about Hillcrest.
Yeah,
I
but
bet
they,
it's
it was,
not.
yeah, it was
I
the
didn't think
museum
so.
they
It's
were
not
talking
that
about.
old, is it?
1959.
40 something.
So was,
They were talking about the building, the museum across the street. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. Has there been an actual appraisal, even with the, the abatement costs and those kind of things? Does the Board of Ed happen to have an actual?
We
appraisal?
haven't done an appraisal.
That would be very expensive.
Would it really? Okay.
We'd spent a little bit of money on that.
Yeah.
So I think you have some direction, right?
Yep, I think so. Any other comments from the council?
The RFI is the first way to go.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
no,
good ideas,
absolutely.
And I think some, yeah.
And I threw it out, and I got an answer back that we'd have to get the local wise in to see if there is. So I think with the board's consent, we can have our attorney reach out to the local wise and get a needs analysis done. I think they'll find it different.
I was going to say, we could put out the RFI, but it doesn't limit us from also calling or writing to other entities and just seeing if they're interested.
Yep.
Saying we have this property, we have this building.
Nonprofits, right?
Yes, nonprofits.
I think it'd be good to, do we need a motion?
No.
To
No.
basically explore any interest in nonprofits?
No, you
See
don't need
what's
a
available.
motion for that.
Pete?
I think it was already brought up, the answer. I just looked at the
would probably-
nonprofit has
it
to
would-
apply to the Highlands?
What's that, Barbara?
Nonprofit has to apply to the Highlands? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, you'd have to put an advertisement out that we're looking for comments on the usage of this building and people who are interested in it. And then we would send a letter from either my office or just from Barbara, basically to those people and that we all come up with, YMCA's and nonprofit hospitals and whoever else that we could think of.
It would be advantageous, I think, to whoever we do this with, for us to do a lease, because that keeps then the Board of Ed
Right.
in the
You're
loop,
exempt.
and we're exempt from the Highlands. So we could make it easier.
Well, we should put that in
Well,
the
that would be an
advertisement.
incentive to anybody coming in that they would not have the same restrictions as we have. That they would have, I'm sorry, they would have the same restrictions as the Board of Ed has.
Yep.
It would be an incentive for somebody to come in because it would have to save them trouble.
Unless we were to sell the building,
Unless we
That's
sell it
different.
outright,
Yeah,
then that's
so-
different, but if we did a long-term lease.
that's different.
We could help whoever it is out.
You can do lease with option to buy.
Yeah, you could do that. You could do that. You could do that.
In 100 years, Board of Ed might be loving for that 100 years to be able to have such a nice facility, perhaps. So,
Yeah.
it could be a very good move.
And I think if we could get a Y in there, I mean, for the board at least, I would want to have it negotiated that our swim team would get free use of that, and at the same time, the police department would get free use of the pool as well to do their practice diving, the search and rescues kind of stuff. Because from what I understand now, they either go to Mountain Lakes or one of the other YMCA's to do their practice diving. So,
There's a lot of use of it.
yeah, no, I think it's a win-win. I don't, and I can't see the YMCA not seeing that there's a need for it. I mean, that's me, but I'm trying to be optimistic too. So
So what kind of time frame do you think realistically we could be looking at if I guess, your office, or you'll be handling the RFIs. When would you expect for us to maybe get some information?
I'd have to work with Barbara to come up with some minimal specs, and then we'd have to put it out and have a time for response. It's going to be at least, I'd say 6 weeks to 2 months, yeah, just for that. And then there are going to be some costs after that. We will have to do an appraisal no matter what.
Yeah.
But at that point, then we'll deal with it.
Yep.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Will?
Now, Kurt?
I think the conversation's pretty much over. I just want to get one last point out. That was back to Ms. Francisco's point about the emergency sheltering. Many residents came up to me and they brought up their Hurricane Sandy experience, especially not having a shower. So, just as throwing it out there to the council that maybe in the future there's a shower truck or something that could be brought to a fire department, or just something structured in that.
High school. High school.
Yeah, we did have.
Yeah, no, they were showers.
And you got to remember too, it was Sandy, and I remember I was at Hillcrest a lot, and you did have a few spurts where you had like more people than the rest of the time, but we did have the overflow going over to the high school. I mean,
One more question.
kind of unexpected.
It was my understanding that the minimum standards for the building in terms of utilities made it so we couldn't just drain the pipes and be done. Is that correct?
What do you mean, drain the pipes if you're done? Like close it up for the winter?
Completely winterize the building.
We could winterize the building. It just has to be done the right way. You have to keep the heat at like 55, I think it is.
Yeah.
And there's some other standards, but we can winterize the building and close it up for the year.
Right, you can't just shut it down. That's
Correct. There are always going to be a little bit of cost to that. We have to plow no matter what. And some other issues to have access to the emergency vehicles if there was a fire or something. And we have to have the heat on so that the pipes don't freeze, even if they're drained. But it's not much.
Thank you.
Okay. Ada?
Before you finish, I have a question about the survey.
Okay, go
Because
ahead.
this has been bothering me for the 2 weeks that we've had it in our possession. Who printed this? Who published it?
Well, we had that on our website, right? And
It was a survey that was created in the district, and then we had,
it was on for a month, right?
yeah, it was up for quite a while. We had it on the sign on Highlander Drive, asking people to participate. We did Honeywell's. I think there was even something in the local newspaper.
Who published it?
We didn't, that was just a printout from
Who printed it?
You mean the results?
The results.
We just printed it from the
Well,
survey.
I find something extremely offensive on page 1 and on page 6. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking
Yeah, it
about.
was offensive.
Because there's a key, and I'm not good with computers, there's a key called a star key that you do F star 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 ED.
I don't know if we could change any of the response on the survey.
Well, what this is telling me, that you have somebody out there in the world who needs help. But the worst part is, the moment you put this out to the public, this is the governing body, all of us.
It's in the dictionary.
I don't care, it's not used with the third word in there.
I got to tell you though, it's funny that you. It's funny.
That's the first thing I noticed when I looked at it.
It hasn't been put out to the public.
Public has seen it. The public has seen it, because the first one before I got this, I was told by someone, that's why I kept asking, are they ever going to give us anything before this meeting comes up? I asked 4 weeks ago, we received this 2 weeks ago. I already knew what was on that page because the public told me about it. So I'm not blaming the public. That person, number 4, apparently 4 people, which is probably mom, dad, and 2 kids, who one person signed in all 4, that person has a troubled background. I'm saying what you people have published. There is a star key. You don't have to use that kind of language in a public document. This is a public document. You just brought it out here in the public too. Come on, people.
Perhaps you can read those words
The minute that was.
Well, I'd like to thank the Board of Ed inviting us, including us in this Hillcrest discussion.
Absolutely.
And I don't believe that we do have any friction between the two governing bodies, and I look forward to future meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to do one more petitions and requests, but before we get to that, I would like to, I'll plant the seed right now. I think that the two bodies should get together, and we should be having that same kind of sit-down.
More often.
Not only in with regards to this, but I think it's, it's Wallace who's been sitting there for 20 years with neither governing body doing either thing, and it might be a good time that we just finally sit down and start to do something with that in conjunction with the Friends of Wallace. But look at what, that's a gift to the town from the Wallace brothers. They had a little bit of a vision as far as open space, recreation, and education, and I think that the two bodies could do something. Could do something really nice with that property for the community. And at one point or another, when we get done with our energy audit and whatever you guys do, we might be able to do some solar there. And, we're both, the community's restricted as far as the Highlands Act goes. In any way that we could take advantage of it, I think we should. And I think it can be educational for the kids, it can be for open space, it can save us money. There's a lot of things. So I would hope that in the future that we could sit down, or just future boards and councils sit down and work this out. I think
It only benefits the residents and
it's
we're here for it.
Yep, I agree. So I am going to, Bob, give you the opportunity. I'm going to have another petitions and requests. So petitioners who wish to speak will be allowed 5 minutes for each petitioner for a period of 30 minutes, and then time permitting, other petitions and requests limited to 5 minutes per petitioner will be allowed until the 30-minute period transpires. Petitioner, I can skip that. All speakers are asked to give their full name, spell their last name, and provide their address. Speakers may not use the names of students during petitions and requests. Is there anybody who would like to speak? I was hoping so, Bob. Come on up. Giving you the opportunity.
Hi, Bob Nicholson, 20 Hyde Road again. Now I have a little idea what's on your mind. Do that. The YMCA seems to be a very popular term, but I don't know if you're aware. They've done a major expansion in Newton. Major, and they just spent a lot of money. So, hopefully we can reach out to them. It would be great. And I think they're going to want more than just putting a pool in. They're going to probably want weightlifting. I belong to the YMCA. My family does. And it's not free either. And that's another thing that you're going to have to tell the residents. The seniors are going to have to pay a membership. And then the fees are probably comparable to Bubbling Springs. What those fees are, $100 and some odd a year. And also now you're talking about to have the school swim team to use it, the police to use it. That's going to be a hard sell to people to want to use it that can't use it. I'm not trying to be negative thing. I'm trying to be proactive to have the whole thing. Newton just did a voter approval for an expansion on the school. It was $18 million to redo a school on a bond. It was voted down 5-1. But it would have cost the taxpayer $300 and some odd for 20 years. Now, last year when we were having budget meetings, I think Councilman Wagner, Signorino, and McGinnis said if our taxes went up $1, people would not be able to afford to live here. So that concerns me as a resident, because if people can't afford to live here with tax increases, what are we going to do? Also, what happens if the YMCA is not interested, or any hospital or anybody happens? How long are you going to sit on the building? Have you took a long-term plan? I mean, it's great. It'd be great if they called up tomorrow and said, yeah, we want to move in. But what are you going to do if this sits there for 3 years, 4 years? Those are things that I think everybody needs to think about, to put the whole thing, to do that. And like, I think you said the only thing valuable in there was the furnace and the generator. I believe the township put that in there.
Not the boiler, I think we put the generator.
Yeah, we
The generator?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it was replaced recently, while the township was leasing it. So I'm just trying to figure, I'm not trying to be skeptical, but why is the town getting involved in something they don't own? I mean, I love you all, but I think, you should put it out to bid. That's great. Do what you're going to do with it. That's even better. So anyway, that's what I just wanted to say. Yes, by all means, we need to keep the fields. That's a given, it's a no-brainer. And hopefully people will do that. And hopefully the YMCA will be wanting to expand. There's a racquetball 23, like you said, down in Pompton Plains. Again, it's memberships. So whether it's for-profit, non-profit, they're going to be charging fees. And that's going to be the mainstay, whether people are going to be able to use it. It's great to have a pool, but if you can't afford $150 a year to swim in it, or a pool or racquetball or weightlifting or whatever it is, so those are things to consider. And what would be the cost, worst case scenario, if you just raise the building? You've got to just number, like Will said, get rid of it, dump it, and then have the land. I mean, it may be cheaper in the long run for us to consider that on things. Anyway, thank you. I just wanted to bring it out to people, and so we could have a fair discussion and not drive anything hastily, because again, it's money.
Thank you.
Mr. Nolan?
Okay, Robert Nolan, still at One Winding Way, 36 years. I would just caution the board with, when you're reaching out to a nonprofit hospital, I know the Valley Hospital is nonprofit, and I know that because my wife works there, and I've been a patient there a couple of times. Have a new hip thanks to the hospital. But there's a lot of consolidation going on in the medical industry, and so if a nonprofit hospital now might not be a nonprofit hospital 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So just kind of keep that in mind. And there was some concern about a 99-year lease. I would just point out to the council that in 1759, Arthur Guinness signed a 10,000-year lease for a piece of property in Dublin, Ireland, where the Guinness Brewery is. So, still has 9,750 years to run. So, thank you all.
That's reassuring.
It'll be around for a while. Go ahead, sir.
Joe Casella, 83 Hewitt Road. I just want to say thank you. It seems like when I came in here, us at Little League were very nervous about losing that field. Just the truth, we have over 500 kids that signed up last year. Our numbers were a little bit lower, but they're starting to increase again. And thank you. I know you support those fields back there. Just so you know, Little League in this town is totally self-sufficient. We raise money through our fundraiser and registrations. Mr. Garcia mentioned we just spent $7,000 to have the field redone. All new turf. We pay for the lights back there. Everything we do, our opening day is April 28th. It's all on us. We don't ask for a dime from the town. So, and we will continue to do so. So I just want to thank you for your support. But please keep those 500 or so kids in mind when we're doing what we're going to do with this building. All right, thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else wish to speak?
Seeing none, like to close petitions and requests.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it is 8:10, and I'm going to make a motion to...
I'm sorry, might I just ask the governing body for
Okay.
consensus for one thing? For the minutes, Barbara and I have spoken. Would the governing body, would the Township Council be amenable to us having Barbara do the minutes and submitting them for your consideration and approval?
Yes. Sure.
Thank you.
No problem.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Antonio. All right, I'll make the motion that we will adjourn the meeting at 8:11.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone.